You have to have personality to be able to understand how to do a cold call, and be able to accept rejection and move forward from that onto the next opportunity.
All right. So hi, Robyn. We've pretty much caught up a while ago. So again, just
Yes.
wanted to
Hi,
say thank
Justin.
you. Just wanted to say thank you again for joining Passivae and taking the first step in changing the future of recruitment. So now, why don't we start with this one? We want to know who you are, where you are from, and basically what are your work experiences.
So my name is Robyn-Lee Adriaanse. I am in South Africa. Currently I'm a customer success manager, and I am in the software sales and customer service space. So really, what I do is, either find new customers, hold relationships with existing customers, and really try to grow the book and, just get customers to entrench more. My work experience, I have 16 years experience in the financial industry, where I worked in one of South Africa's big 5 banks, First National Bank. And through my career, I've actually, moved quite a bit. I started on the ground, face-to-face with customers. I've moved into management roles, where eventually I found my passion in customer service. And that is really expressed through, you can see it in my work, basically my career path. So I've been a private banker, so dealing with really high-end customers, helping them reach and achieve their financial goals. I then moved into the service space, where I managed, our social media banker, as well as a team of service managers. And we looked after nationally, the private client space, which again was, quite the high net worth of clients. So, these are your upper market high earners. And, I managed the process of customer service, implementing, customer experience principles by running obviously workshops, because you want to get feedback, from the, those that are working on the ground. So running workshops, what do you think customer service looks like? And then taking all of the feedback and then coming up with the customer experience principles, which we tested, across various teams, and, obviously implemented that. I was very heavily involved in the root cause project. So that was one of my babies. And I ran the root cause project where, obviously, you get all of this customer feedback, but so what? So what are you doing with that? We implemented a root cause system where we basically were putting all of these issues, whatever we did in terms of mitigating these, and then obviously going back and measuring. Because anything you do, you obviously want to know that what you are doing is successful. So, very heavily entrenched in the analytics space, worked very, very closely with the analytics teams to build dashboards, reports to see, obviously, what it is that we wanted to see, and then obviously, have a real-time measure to know if something is working. I also ran with campaigns, so lots of campaigns, whether it was marketing campaigns, targeting, new customers. I looked at the campaign when it was launched, obviously, what the reach point was. And then, for me, it was always important to measure campaign success quite early, so that you know whether or not you are wasting your time, wasting the time of the business and wasting the time of any agents that are currently dealing with those campaigns. So that was, one of my other projects that I ran with. I also then moved into a contact center where I managed 17 team managers, over 267 staff. So that was, my contact center operation manager experience. And, in that role, obviously looking at workforce engagement, workforce management, staffing, and then, obviously looking at all those quiet times and what we do to actually, turn things around in the contact center. So if the, call volumes are not high and we've scheduled additional people, we take them off the line, and implement some proactive time during that time. So really looking at, making sure that we're getting the most out of the time that is available, time allocated to agents, bankers, and making sure that none of the bank's time was really being wasted and that everything was being used productively so that we could obviously get the most out of everything we did there. From the contact center, I also moved into a regional sales role where I managed a team of 17 salespeople across the region. And, really what I needed to do was focus on, targets and making sure that the team achieved their targets. I would go in with the team to do introductions in, large corporates. So I would go in and, have that initial meeting with the CEO, introduce my team and allow them to run with it. And, obviously pushing and making sure we achieve targets there. And I've also been a business manager in the private wealth space. So this is your elite clients, the ones, the top, the cream of the crop. And in the private wealth space, I was a business manager there, and really just looking after the entire customer experience from sales processes, service processes that the team obviously needs to follow, making sure that I go and review those processes, make sure that it's working, anything that's not working, making sure that we change that, looking at any new campaigns, obviously wearing two hats, one for the business and then one for the customer, because that's always important, to make sure that anything that we do is going to be beneficial for the business, but also it's not going to be anything that the customer is going to be overwhelmed by. It must be something that that it can be relatable to the customer. So looking at the campaigns, the processes, projects. So I ran multiple projects. So in the regulatory space, I ran a couple of projects. So any new regulations, regulatory processes that needed to be passed down, that was really my focus, is to see how we roll that out and make sure that everyone adopts those regulatory processes, obviously, because it is quite important. I've dealt with, ombudsman matters. So that's really the escalated matters where it goes through to the ombudsman, where the customer disputes. And I always win. I always win my ombudsman matters. And then obviously now moving into the SaaS space, where I am now a customer success manager, and all of the experience I've gained through the years have definitely helped me to grow and develop within my current role as well. So it was a big change for me moving from financial industry into SaaS, but it just shows sometimes you might be afraid of the unknown, but you just need to take that leap and just apply what you've learned. And really, so that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Great. So I feel like you've gathered a lot of wisdom and let's just say information throughout the years of your experience. So with this, now that you are a customer success manager, what are some of the key skills that you think are important in this industry?
So the number one skill I would say is obviously, having, sort of customer relationship skills. That's quite important, especially when you're building a relationship for, business to business customers. It's important that you have the right personality to be able to engage with, customers at different levels. So whether it's, on the ground level or you're dealing directly with the executives. You need to have those skills. You need to have the ability to basically upskill yourself and train yourself. I know when I started, I didn't have any formal training. I was literally given the tools that I needed and said, run with it. You have to be able to, have the personality to get down to the nitty-gritties, to understand what it is that is required from you, understand the tools that you need to use to be successful, and you obviously need to become a sort of a subject matter expert, because when you're dealing with your customers in the software industry, they're going to look to you for any sort of answers that they need for any issues that they might encounter. You need to be the subject matter expert. You need to build your internal stakeholder relationships, because that's quite important. You need to know, if you need to get pricing, if you need sort of technical support from an engineer, that you've got that and you're able to give your customer the best possible experience. And that just helps you with growing the business, the existing business that you have. so that your customer always comes back to you for any additional sort of opportunities that they might see that they need, and you are able to assist. And also for referral purposes, because that's quite important. You want customers to talk about you, so that when they are at the golf course, as an example, and playing, and they start, the subject happens to come up, that they mention your name. So I really feel like personality comes into play quite greatly, and then obviously learning all of the skills that you need to have, and really becoming a subject matter expert in everything that you do, and not being afraid to pick up the phone and make that call. You know, being in customer success means that you have to try and phone. You have to acquire new business. Sometimes you don't even have a lead, and you need to do some cold calling. You have to have personality to be able to understand how to do a cold call, and be able to accept rejection and move forward from that onto the next opportunity. Like, just to sum it up, I think those are basically the key skills.
I'm also interested to know, since you've mentioned that when you have started, right, like you had no idea what was going on. So, what was your journey like? Was it hard for you, starting?
So I think so. Initially, because like I said, I come from 16 years in the financial industry. That was all I knew. You could ask me anything about banking, I would be able to give it to you as if I was a dictionary, or sort of a encyclopedia for banking. So coming into software, was brand new, something I had absolutely no experience on, other than the fact that we used some of the tools, working in the financial industry, but now being on the other side was quite daunting. So for me, what my journey was basically, my first couple of days, met with some of the other team, met with the director to understand exactly what it is that was required. I obviously knew, sort of what the role entailed, but you know how it is. A job spec doesn't necessarily mean that when you read that and you understand it, that you can actually do the job. Was for me to take my 30-day journey and kick it off, and get it executed within 15 days. Really. I got in touch with all the training that needed to be completed, and I made sure that I completed all of that training. I did some demos to myself to make sure that I can get comfortable. Scheduled some time with my director as well, to say, let me do a demo and you can give me some feedback to make sure that I'm ready, making sure and understanding how the renewal process is done, understanding the contracting processes, and what needed to be done. So for me, my journey was really to just understand all of the processes that sat behind it, making sure that, the tools that I needed, that I had a good understanding of it, that I did my training, got my certifications. And I mean, even with that, you still need additional hours of practice, which I took upon myself. After hours, I was doing some practice because, I don't even want to speak to a customer and come across as being incompetent. So yeah, it was really just upskilling myself and getting myself to a level where I felt comfortable, to be able to engage with customers and give them a good experience.
I mean, like the experience is already there, and actually, I want to extract some of your thoughts. I mean, like I want to go inside your head, basically. So,
Okay.
what was your mindset like when it comes to handling like rejections, or let's just say when you were facing a tough time? What was that mindset that kept you going through those times?
So, in the beginning, it's hard, for anyone. If you are rejected, you have a tendency to become a little bit despondent, become a little bit negative. But I think through my experience, through my training, I've learned that, sometimes a rejection is not, it's not somebody that's rejecting you. It might not be a need for them right now. So, I had to do that mind shift change for myself, to say, it might not be in the interest of somebody or this specific customer right now, but, there will be somebody who will say yes. So it was really just to get myself to understand that, the rejection is not really rejecting me. It's just not a need for them right now. and learning through all of my sales experience as well, is that sometimes you'll get 10 no's before you get a yes. Sometimes you'll get 20 no's before you get a yes, but it's just to keep pushing on, persisting, understanding what the end goal is at the end of the day. For me in my career is I want to be the best, the best person, currently fulfilling that role. I want to, sort of be recognized for that. Doing my best, but, always never at the expense of forcing customers to take something that they might not need. I don't believe in doing things like that. I believe in identifying needs and then selling according to those needs. So, anytime a customer approaches you, whether it's a query, it's a complaint, there's always a need that sits behind that. It's for you to be able to have the skills to understand or, get down to what that need is and then sell according to the need. And once you do things a little bit differently like that, you start seeing those changes. You start, and even if the customer says no right now, but if you've left that impression with the customer, you've planted a seed. And once you plant a seed, if the customer ever does have that need, you're going to be the first person that they contact. And I've experienced that, throughout my career. So yeah. So it's the rejection handling is really a mindset change. It's something you have to train yourself on. It's something that not to get emotional about, but understand that it is business, and just push forward. Okay.
So you've also mentioned, right, that you want to be the best in your career. So let's just say for the next 5 years, what are some of
Mm-hmm.
the things that you're looking for to achieve with your career?
Okay, so for me is really to grow my book, in the next couple of years is to grow my book. So in my current role, it would be to grow my book, and get to sort of the next level, in terms of customers, and really just getting them as entrenched as I possibly can, looking at getting them committed over a longer period of time as opposed to a shorter period of time. And for me personally would also be sort of getting to the next level. So next level for me would be something like a director post. However, for me personally and within my career, I do sort of see myself moving into, sort of like a customer experience or customer support head role. That's really what I would like to do. I am very passionate about people, passionate about leading, and as a leader, I've always prided myself in how I can elevate those that report into me to get to the next level. That's how I measure success for myself as well. Is have I been able to help somebody move to the next level while under my leadership? And if I have, that is a tick for me. So that is really me measuring success, for myself. And I do the same within my role as well. Sometimes you might not have a promotion as such, but that doesn't mean that you have not grown. So, personal growth is not only measured on the next position that you get or the higher position, but really, the impact that you have had on somebody, the impact that you've had, or the changes you were able to help your customer achieve. That is growth. You've got to tick that off as, growth. It's an achievement. So maybe I didn't move within my role, over the last 3 or 4 years, but I have achieved so many other things, and for me that is quite important, and I measure that as growth. So for me, growing within my career and where I see myself in the next couple of years is having an impact on as many lives as I can.
Let's just say there's someone out there who wants to start being a customer success manager in the future, or
Mm-hmm.
just to jumpstart their career in this industry. What's that one piece of advice that you would love to give to them?
For me, it would be don't ever be afraid to apply. Don't ever reject yourself. Don't look at the job and say, oh, I might not have the experience for this, or I might not have what they're looking for. So don't ever disqualify yourself. Put yourself out there and apply for that role. You never know when you have the opportunity. And if you're in the opportunity, embrace it, make the most of it, learn as much as you can, and always just strive to be the best that you possibly can within the role.